recording going. So how's everybody doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good.
Okay. I want to go over, I know we went over this the other day, but I want to hit a couple more times on the day supply worksheet. Now that everybody's put their answers in, I could go in and I could see where some people had some challenges. So I want to go ahead and address some of those challenges. Scroll. So one of the ones that I was noticing is some of these special kind of dispensing. And yeah, there are some rules. So generally speaking, 1 gram is the amount to be administered unless the instructions are telling us something else. So for example, here on number 11, it's saying to use 1 applicator, which is 5 grams. So HS would be, so if I'm writing this out, that's 5 grams. Whoops, I keep doing that today. Per dose. And there's 1 dose per day. So that means that you're going to use 5 grams per day. Now, when we're figuring the day supply part of that, we've got a total of 45 grams dispensed. So that's going to last 9 days. It's not going to be 1 gram because it's telling us specifically that it's a 5 gram quantity on that application. The next one is a lotion, and this one has a variable dose range. So it's saying, again, we're going to use 1 to 2 milliliters. So we're going to go with the max, which is 2 milliliters. So we're going to apply that lotion twice a day. And that means that we're going to use 4 milliliters per day. And when we divide the 150 by 4, we get 37.5, which we can only count whole days. So that would be 37 days. 75 days is not correct because what if they're using 2 milliliters on each dose? They're going to run out. So we're going to make sure, and it says you may even use more if it's a large area, but we're going to go with 2 milliliters. Down here, this one is similar to 11 in that it's telling us what the applicator is. And this is being administered twice a day. So that would be 10 grams per day. And we have 70 grams. That would be 7 days. Now this one is traditional. This is a cream. So it's not telling us anything about applicators. So we're going to assume 1 dose is equal to 1 gram. And it's applied once a day. So this one's going to last 15 days. Tell me what questions you have or challenges that you had with these creams and application type questions. Or after you looked at the key that I posted, you're like, I see it now.
Can you do the one with the Flonase? We did that one.
I'm gonna do the special ones each in a group. So this is about creams and ointments and application, but I'll do the Flonase, and I'll also do insulins. I just want to make sure that we're getting this one first. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save that. And we'll look at the Flonase question. So, and then I'm going to come back to this Ultram question again, just in case. So the Flonase. So it's given you a lot of information here. What you're going to look for is, does the package tell me how many doses are in the package? If it tells me that, I don't need to worry about any of this other information. And this tells us there's 120 in the package. So this 16 grams, that's just the size of the container. We're not going to worry about that. We're not going to worry about this. We're not going to worry about this. We're going to worry about once daily and 2 sprays per nostril. That makes 4 sprays per dose because there's 2 nostrils. 2 sprays in each nostril is 4 sprays total each time. Now, we're going to do it once a day. So we need 4 sprays per day. Now, our container has 120 sprays. So then how many days will that last? That'll last 30 days. So nasal sprays, inhalers, these will usually tell you the total doses in the container. So you don't really usually need to calculate that. You need to look for that. Does it always? No, but more times than not, it will tell you how many sprays there are. That help, Demetrius?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're doing these problems, like I have it on the key, you kind of have to identify what all the parts are and kind of list them out. So I'm going to go back up here to this Ultram. So what I'm looking for is the most frequent, or the maximum number with the most frequency. So that's 2 tabs per dose times 6 doses per day. So in one day, we should use 12 doses. Or 12 tabs. And because we have 20 total, this is my day supply side. I can only get 12 out of 20 one time. There's a remainder, there's a decimal, but I only can count whole numbers. And then this neosporin is similar to that. There should be another parentheses here. So we're going to apply a thin strip. Well, what's 1 centimeter to, we're not gonna know, but it's telling me here that it's approximately 100 milligrams. OU. Anytime there's a U, an O or an A in front of it, U is each, right? In this case, it's each eye. My little drawing with my eyes and my nose, OU too. So this is apply 2 thin strips. So if one strip is 100 milligrams and you're doing 2, times 2 eyes, that's 200 milligrams per dose. Or 100 milligrams per eye, 2 eyes per dose, something like that. But it's going to be 200 milligrams per dose. Now, if we keep going, we're going to, again, go with the max quantity. Whoops, wrong one. Q3 hours. Now, another piece here is it's telling us it's going to be 7 to 10 days because it's going to vary about how much they put on or how often they use it. But if we're going to calculate this out, we're going to say every 3 hours is 8 doses. So we're going to use 200 milligrams per dose times 8 doses per day. And we're going to see that comes out to be 1,600 milligrams per day. 3.5 grams is 3,500 milligrams. Right over. I'm going to change the color of my pen so it shows up a little bit better. Oops. So over here, 3,500. So there's 1,000 milligrams in 1 gram. There's how many milligrams in 3.5 grams. So that makes it 3,500 milligrams. So I substitute here. So if we're using 1,600 milligrams a day and we have 3,500 milligrams, 3,500 divided by 16 is equal to, 1,600 is equal to 2 days. So if they're using the max amount, it's not going to last them 7 to 10 days. So a couple of things are going to happen. Either they're going to use more of it beginning of the dose and taper down, or we're going to have to give them multiples of the tube. We're not really worried about that right now. That's practical. That's pharmacy practice. Right now, we're only worried about the math. Questions on these? Okay, let's look at an insulin. So the Medrol and the Z-Pak, it's not the number of tablets. It's written on there how many days. So you just have to look at the packaging and count the number of days. Let's see, where was the insulin question? It's too far down. Y'all get dizzy yet? Here we go. Here's an insulin question. So insulin, U100 means there's 100 units per milliliter. Your container is 10 milliliters. So you have to know how many units are in that 10 milliliters. That's your quantity. So 1,000 units is the quantity that was dispensed. Now, the other way you could do it is you could change your your 35U into milliliters. And if you were going to do that, you'd have to say 100 units per milliliter is equal to 35 units per X. And here this X would be 0.35 milliliters. Then we're dealing with decimals. It gets a little messy. I prefer to do it this way. If you prefer to do it this way, that's fine. You're going to use this, and this is how much per dose because they're doing it daily. So in this case, I would do 35, 0.35 milliliters per day is equal to 10 milliliters over X. And if I do that, 10 divided by 35, I get 10 divided by 0.35, 28.5, which would be 28 days. Now, if I do it by figuring out how many units, which in the long run, that's going to be the better way to do it, only because when we get to insurance adjustments, it'll play out better that way. Let's see if I do this color, if it shows up. I'm going to write here in the margin. So I'm going to use this. My total units, no, that doesn't work. That hurts my eyes. This is too dark. Let's see if this one works. Nope, too dark. Well, I would like, there we go. I was going to say I'd like a white one. Guess what? There is. So if I'm saying my total units my quantity dispensed is 1,000, right? That's 10 milliliters of a U100 product. So I have that. And my dose per day, I'm using 35 units per day. And I have a total of 1,000 units in my bank. That's going to last 28.5 days. So the number comes out the same. It just depends on how you work it. But that U100 and that 10 milliliters are related to each other. So you can't just, the 10 milliliters is the actual quantity. That's real important. So it's not 35 out of 100, it's 35 out of 35 units or 0.35 milliliters out of that 10 milliliters. And if we go all the way up to the top, I did units here for you. So this was already on your sheet. It already told you that a 10 milliliter vial had 1,000 units in it. Questions? Thought process? Light bulb moments?
I'm good. The ones that I kind of miss is the ones that you worked out.
Okay. Yeah, and when I looked back through everybody, I kind of saw a trend on some things. So that's one of the things you have to remember, especially with variable dosing. You're going to go for the maximum amount. So here we have another one with this tobramycin. So we're going to put 2 drops into OS. So that's just one eye, right? That's the left eye. And we're going to go 6 doses per day. And it says use 2 drops per dose 6 times. So I gave it to you. You didn't even have to really do the math on that one. But you did have to convert your 5 milliliters into drops. So we know that 1 milliliter is equal to 20 drops. So that would make 5 milliliters equal to a total of 100 drops. So then we would take our 12 drops per day and find out how many days 100 drops would last. And that would last 8.333, which is 8 days, because it's got to be whole days. Here again, we've got, it's telling me how many doses, how many meters, how many meter doses, how many sprays. So I need 2 sprays twice a day. And I want you to write on your papers like this. I want you to write all this stuff down if you're writing out the problems. Don't be afraid to write over everything. So you're using 4 doses or 4 sprays per day. And you've got 100 sprays, 100 doses. So that's going to last you 25 days. All right. Okay, so your test, your test review. Now, there were too many questions for me to get loaded. So what I've done is, whoops, that's not it. There it is. I've done a key. So we'll go over this and then I'll post the key for you versus you putting it in and me checking it. I just don't have the time to load all the questions and write your test and all the TNGs I got going on this week too. So I just had a little bit more on my plate than I could handle. But I wanted to make sure that we go over this so that, again, you can ask questions, check your answers kind of thing. So at the beginning, I've given you some hints, some help, some notes, if you would. Maybe a different color. There we go. So you're going to have to know these. You have to memorize that stuff. It's not going to be given to you. Now, there is a couple that I'll bring up as we're going through the review that aren't listed here. Some maybe you could have deduced. Others you would have had to be given the information. So I noticed that when I was doing the worksheet. Now, the thing about a test review is your test is not going to be this long. Okay, it's going to be a sampling of these questions, but here we've got lots of practice. So you can say, oh, I'm pretty solid on this kind, but this is where I have my questions. So 1 milliliter is 20 drops, just like we did on the last page. The usual amount, that should be usual, amount of 1 administered dose of an ointment, cream, or gel is 1 gram. When dosing insulin, 100 U100 means 100 units per milliliter. 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams, and 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters. Questions on this? Okay, tell me how many micrograms are in 1 milligram?
1,000.
1,000. So that is one that shows up on here as well, but we have to go over that in class on Monday, so hopefully you got that one. All right. Now I've already got the answers here, so asking you what the answers are, we can just tell me where if you had problems or not. So this one is kind of just self-explanatory, but you notice I still write out all of that information, right? I'm still doing what's my order, what's my dose strength. And then when I line it, oh, well, if my order is 80 and my dose strength is 80, well, then what I need is one tablet. That's pretty straightforward um, and not complex, but that doesn't work for everything. So number 7, I've highlighted it because that's a conversion problem. So we had to first convert, and unfortunately my annotation in PowerPoint does not let me change colors like it does here. So the first thing I had to do was change this into milligrams so that my order and my dose strength had the same unit. So once I do that, I just substituted the 300 milligrams as my order. So 4 milliliters. And similar, just dosing problem. So these are just solve for X dosing problems, 4 milliliters. This one, I needed 40 milligrams for my dose. It comes 20 milligrams per tablet, so I needed 2 tablets. Now, these are single doses. When it's just this information, this is just a single dose. And I think it actually had that in the instructions. Yeah. So here it's telling us in the instructions that you're just going to calculate one dose for these first set of questions. And because tablets are scored, that means you can cut them. All right. So number 10, who wants to give me the answer to number 10 before I scroll down? Did y'all do the worksheet? Okay, let me ask you this. How confident do you feel in doing a dosing problem solve for X?
Yeah, I can do all of them.
Okay, so Shanta feels pretty good about this. Y'all did pretty well on your assignment for this. I just want to make sure if there's any questions between question number 6 and 21. So when I get down here, and I've highlighted the conversions. So 21, we actually have a label instead of it being printed out. Then when we get to 21, that's the last one like that. Then we get into some questions. So you have to identify all of the information. So this one's saying, you know, what is the amount of the drug ordered? 0.3 milligrams. What is the dosage strength? And you need 100, it's a 100 count bottle. That's not important. Not unless we're giving it the whole thing and then we're asking what the day supply are. And then it wanted to know how many tablets do we need for one dose. Now, some terminology here. This says caplet. A caplet is a tablet. It's just shaped like a capsule. So that's actually a tablet. And this was a day supply question. So what kind of questions do you have for day supply on any of these that were on the worksheet? I'm not going to keep giving you my answers if y'all aren't. We'll go back to this. And I'll use this. Let's look at this insulin problem and do this together. So is this a brand name or a generic name?
It's the brand name?
Yep, brand.
It's a brand name.
So the thing about insulin, when doctors write for insulin, they write the brand name. They have to give you a brand name and then what type of insulin. Or the generic name. So if this was not, well, that's not an NPH. That should say regular insulin. That should have said N. Anyways, I must have changed up the label. Now, it's got to tell you also what is the strength of the insulin. Is it U100? Is it U500? Is it U200? U300? What is it? And then this one is telling us that we have one vial. So how much is in that vial?
3 ml.
That's our 10 mils, right? This
Total
U100
quantity
is showing us that it's the 100 units per milliliter. So what is our dosage strength?
to 100 unit per milliliter.
100 units per milliliter. Okay, how much do we need for one dose?
15 units.
15 units. Insulin's weird. Insulin has its own syringe. We measure insulin in units. The volume in the container is milliliters because we don't measure out, the container's not measured in milliliters or measured in units. Now, once we do this, okay, we need 15 units per day, right? Because they're doing it once a day. And I have
1,000 units.
1,000 units because that's my 100 units per milliliter is equal to X over 10 milliliters. In my total. So how many days will this last?
66 days.
66 days. Now, when it comes to reality, we may look at this and say, nope, we've got to throw it away before it expires. We'll deal with that next semester or later this semester as well, when we're doing refill adjustments and things like that. But if we're doing processing prescriptions and that kind of thing, we have to know expiration dates, how once it's open, it's only good for so many days, that type of thing. It doesn't come in a smaller container. We don't have 5 milliliter vials of insulin. 10 milliliter vials is the smallest. Some insulins come in pens, which have smaller volumes, but not all insulin comes in pens. So the fact that this would last 66 days in theory is fine, but once it's opened, it's not good for 66 days. It's kind of like your milk, until you open it, you've got a shelf life on it, but if it says that your milk expires in 2 weeks, but you open it, once you open it, it's really only good for 7 days. It's not going to last to the actual expiration date. All right. So tell me, if you did the sheet, which ones gave you trouble? Here we have another
Miss
instance.
Ann, can you do?
I'm sorry?
Can you do number 10? I'm still working.
Number 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically what you're doing with these problems is you're mining for information. So this is an order, and you're just calculating one order. So this is a solve for X. So you need to know order, and you need to know dosage strength. So what is one dose order?
Mm. 400,000 units.
400,000 units. Okay, and what is my dose strength?
100,000 per milliliter.
It's got to have the two parts. It's got to tell me that it's per milliliter, per tablet, per capsule, per application, per something. That's how I know that's my dosage strength. This is my bottle. This is my volume, my quantity. That has nothing to do with this problem. This tells me how much they're going to do for the whole day. This has nothing to do with this problem. If we're doing a day supply or quantity to dispense, then those are important. Right here, we're just calculating one dose. So now you've got units and units. You've got milliliters. Oh, my X must be milliliters, right? Which that matches. Now me, I don't like messy things. I don't like all of these zeros. That's my own personal way to look at stuff. I'm going to get rid of a bunch of these zeros. Cross off 1, cross off 2, cross off 3. So that leaves me 4 units over X is equal to 1 unit over 1 ml. Oh, that makes my math easy. I don't even need my calculator for that, because I got rid of all those crazy zeros, and that way I don't plug it into my calculator wrong. So were you able to do number 8? Demetrius?
No.
So how would I set up number 8 then? You walk me through it. Are you writing your order DS like I've been showing you?
Yeah.
Okay, what's
So the order is going to be 100 milligrams.
Okay, and what's my dosage
And
strength?
the dose current is going to be 125 milligrams per 5 milliliters.
Yep. So now all I'm going to do is solve
Um,
for x. So if I have 125 milligrams per milliliter on this side, what's on this side?
100 milligrams over over X.
Okay. Now, do you do it like this, or do you do a ratio proportion?
No, I do it like that. I do like the first one.
Okay. So I'm going to isolate my x. Do you write
That
it out,
is,
or do you cross multiply? Do you do the little arrows, or do you write it all out?
I usually write it all out.
Okay.
So
So
it's gonna be X.
what do we know x is equal to in this problem? What's x have a relationship to?
The milliliters.
That's going to be our unit in the answer, but it's a relationship to one of these numbers directly. X is equal to what here?
X is equal to 125 milligrams.
No, it's equal to the 100. They're in the same picture, right?
Okay.
Okay, 100 pennies is equal to $1. I can also write it 100 pennies in $1 or per $1, right? So these are equal. This is just about a relationship. So the x is equal to the milligrams. The thing is, this x is in a different unit, so we have to convert that. Now when we're converting that, we know that this part is related. That's when we have to change our units. So I need milligrams on the bottom so that my cancel. And I need milliliters on top so that that's my end unit. So then I come back over here and I say, okay, 125 milligrams, 1 milliliter.
That is in 5 milliliter?
Oh, thank you. It is 5 milliliters. So 500 divided by 125 with my unit on the end.
That's 4 milliliters.
All right, now let's go back and do a check. Let's think about this. I'm going to put this back into my problem. So if I rewrite my problem, then I have 125 milligrams per 5 ml. And my order was for 100 milligrams. And I just determined that that is equal to 4 mLs. One way to check is 125 divided by 5 is how much?
25 milliliters.
Okay, I'm just doing the numbers. I'm not going to worry about the units here.
Okay.
I'm just checking my numbers
So
to make sure that they work. Okay. 100 divided by 4 is equal to what?
It's 25. That's 25 also.
So 25 is equal to 25. So that's one way to check. You plug it back in. Another way
that's
is
how normal.
when I look at this, is 100 bigger or smaller than 125?
It's smaller.
So that means my answer must be less than 5. It has to be smaller as well. Is 4 less than 5? It is. So you can do a quick check by, is it bigger or smaller? Does the bottom match the top in that bigger or smaller thought process? Or you just go and you plug your answer back in and just use these as division problems and check and make sure that the numbers match. Were you able to do number 9?
Number 9 is just 2 tablets.
Yeah. So what made number 9 easier than number 8 or number 10?
Number 9 just didn't have all that extra stuff like number 8. I just divided 40 by 20.
Okay. Well, that's what you're doing here. You're taking 100, dividing it by 25, and multiplying by 5. You just don't need to know the size of the container. We just can't. We can handle a tablet, right? We can hold one tablet at a time. We can't hold milliliters like that. So it has to tell us what bottle it came in. If that helps make any sense. You can.
And then I was so focused on the by mouth twice a day and
that's not important
the hours.
Dose. Now this is only
Okay.
this is important for quantity to dispense or day supply.
Okay.
But these are dosing questions. How much am I going to give you for 1 dose? So that's why I always default. I go to the order and I go to my dosage supply, dosage strength. Here it's written as supply. So on the when you go back and you look at that's what I've done for all of the problems. I've taken it all back to, I identify, this is my order, this is my dosage strength. This is my order, this is my dosage strength. This is my order, this is my dosage strength. Until my questions start to change, now I need to figure out what's important and what's not important. This one's not asking me anything about day supply. It's not asking me anything about how many to dispense. So the bottle and the frequency, not important. But then I get to this one and it is asking me day supply. So the quantity that's dispensed is important, but in that, so is the SIG code, because I have to know how many tablets I give for every dose. Because if I'm not giving one, it's not gonna, and then how often do I need to give the dose? I will tell you, disregard, there's a couple of edits. There was it was a liquid drug. That one was right. Number 41, you can't do number 41. Those numbers are wanky. I don't know what that was originally supposed to be. At some point it got edited. So just cross, or 44, sorry, not 41, 44, just cross off 44. There was a liquid drug. Number 24. Number 24 should be GM, not MG. Because your number is going to come out really wanky with milligrams. It's going to be a very, very small amount of milliliters. Because this one's asking day supply. So the container would basically last forever. Talk to me, talk to me. Because this test is going to be due Friday. Are you ready for this test? If you don't ask me questions. Derek gave me a thumbs up. Thank you, Derek. You just have to look at each problem. How many questions will be on the test? That's a good question. I haven't written it yet. I'll write it today. It'll probably be around 20 questions, maybe. I don't want it to be crazy long. It may only be 15, but I'd say 15 to 20 questions. Because it's based on the sulfurex dosing, identifying parts of a label, some word problem stuff. They're all going to be kind of intermixed. If I have a label like this one, it may have multiple parts, kind of thing, like tell me information, or, you know, like these questions where it gives you the order and you have to tell me how many to dispense, or it could be like, this one where it's asking day supply. And I like giving you the ones that have the labels, because in the real world, you're going to have to go pull the drug and look at the label and do that information. So when you enter in a prescription into the computer, you've got that SIG, and the doctor, these are written more like a real order. That was my intention here. So the doctor doesn't say the order is 300 milligrams. The doctor's going to say, give 3 capsules. In a hospital, it may say 300 milligrams, but in retail, it's not. It's going to say, take this many tablets, take 5 milliliters, you know, take a teaspoon daily, whatever. So we're going to have to take that information off the label and use it. So if I needed to know, well, how many milligrams did a patient take in one dose? Well, if they're taking 3 capsules and each capsule is 100 milligrams, they're taking 300 milligrams. If I need to know how much are they taking for the whole day, well, each dose is 300 milligrams and they have 2 doses in a day. They're taking 600 milligrams in a day. That will build later when we talk about dose ranges, comes back to pharmacology, neurotherapeutic index, all that dosing stuff. So this is basically the foundation. Can we decipher the information as it is right here? Later on, we're going to build on this. For this question, if we use 3 capsules per dose, and this is where I like to do my whole little writing on things, and I'll have your calculators built into the test for you too, so that'll make it a little easier. But I just identify the pieces right here. So this is 3 caps per dose, and BID is 2 doses per day. So when I multiply that, I have 6 caps per day. Now the quantity dispensed is 100 tablets or capsules. And that's where, okay, if I'm going to use 6 per day, oh, I'm finding day supply. I set it up like that, and then I say, okay, how many days will this bottle last if I'm dispensing this whole bottle? In some medications for storage, they're dispensed in their original manufacturer's container. Now, usually those are going to be in appropriate quantities for the usual dose, maybe 30, 60, 90, 120 count versus 100 count. This number is going to be a little, it's going to be something that we have to round to the whole number. We're, or keep the whole number value. But if we're counting on a counting tray, so a counting tray, basically, we get this piece that it's a tray with a trough, and we pour the tablets onto it and then count by fives. So I'd be like 5, 10, 15, 20 until I got to my 100, and then I put it in my vial and give it to the patient. But I'm not going to count and say, okay, 6 is 1 day, 12 is 2 days. That would be very confusing. But we have to be able to know that when we enter the order into the computer for the insurance companies. What is the day supply? And sometimes doctors don't tell us the full quantity they want dispensed. They do it more now than they used to. I'll be honest. When I started in pharmacy, way back in the day, I did see a lot more of just something that looks like something like this one, where the doctor wasn't going to figure out what container we were going to give the patient. He wasn't, because he didn't know what we had on our shelf. He didn't know how many, that we had a container that had 473 milliliters. So what we would often do is when we have a big bottle, we take it and pour it into a smaller bottle for the patient. We don't always give the whole bottle to the patient. So if I figure out how much the patient needs, now for this one, because we're going to dispense it in milliliters, right? So our supply, we've got to know how much in milliliters. So this answer is going to be milliliters, and this answer is going to be milliliters. My order is for what on this one? I need to determine what this milliliter is. So I need to know what my order is first.
Is it 12.5 milligrams?
It is. And what's my dose strength?
It's 6.25 milligrams per 5 milliliters.
6.25. It's not 25, it's 25. Okay. So now that I have that, I can figure out what this is equal to in milliliters. It's just a conversion. So how many milliliters is going to give me that ordered dose?
You see how many milliliters?
Yeah.
2.5 milliliters?
Nope. 2.5 is less than 5.
Okay.
12.5 is bigger than 6.5, so it cannot be 2.5.
You answered the result?
I'm sorry, Shanta, what was your answer?
You asked the result? What will be the
Yep, how many milliliters?
10 milliliters?
Okay, so to get 12.5 milligrams from this bottle, I need 10 milliliters. So it's 10 milliliters per dose. So if I have 10 milliliters per dose and I'm TID, what's TID?
30.
That's what I do.
3 doses per day. And it's times 2 days. Day cancels,
30.
dose cancels. I'm left with milliliters. That would be
60.
60 milliliters. So I need to give my patient 60 milliliters to last their prescription. How much is in this bottle?
473 milliliter.
Okay, so there's 473 milliliters in the bottle. If I gave them that whole bottle, all they need is 60 milliliters. They would waste 413 milliliters. We don't want to do that. So that's why I would have to calculate how much to dispense. The doctor may not know what concentration we have on the shelf. Maybe he thinks that we have 12.5 milligram per 5 ml. So if he said 1 teaspoon, well, if we don't have the right strength, that's not going to match. He would have to tell us the strength up here if he was going to say 1 teaspoon. But because he didn't, and he's like, okay, I don't know what you have. I'm just going to tell you what I want the patient to get. You figure out how much to give the patient to get that amount. We do that a lot in the hospital because we do dosing on a 24-hour basis. The doctor doesn't give us quantities in the hospital. He just gives us the dose amount and the frequency, and we have to figure out how many of each dose they need for a 24-hour period. The other clue on this one is right here. It tells us this is a bulk container. Generally, we don't give the bulk containers to the patients. If it's meant to be a regular amount that we give a patient and they're told to throw away the extra, like with an antibiotic, that's a whole nother story. It won't say bulk container on it. Talk to me, talk to me. Now this one, this is when you have a medication that's a combination drug, like Cinnamate. Cinnamate is carbidopa levodopa, if you remember that from 103, maybe not. They're not going to count it. He has to tell us what strength, but it's always going to be counted by the tablet. If it's injectable, then we worry about the strengths. But here, This is just telling us how much of each ingredient. So this is the carbidopa, and this is the levodopa. But the order's telling us we need 1 tablet 3 times a day. So 1 tablet per dose times 3 doses per day. And we need enough for 28 days. So 3 times 28.
84.
74?
84.
84, thank you. I forgot to carry a 1. Or actually carry a 2. Carried a 1, I didn't carry a 2. One of the biggest things, just don't overthink. Think about what's being asked. Identify. That's the word problem part. Identify. What's the information? This is number of days. This is the dosage strength. This is my order. This is my frequency. All right, now what do I need to know? I need to know how many units are required to fill the following orders. Fill for 14 days. So I don't need days here. I need, in this case, what's my unit? I need milliliters. Because my milligrams will end up canceling. So the only thing I'm left with is milliliters. Now I go back in and I say, okay, what do I need? What do I have? Right? So if I need milliliters, and this is where dimensional analysis can come into play. But if you start identifying, okay, this has milliliters. Oh, I've got 200 milligrams per 5 ml. Oh, here I got something with milligrams, 500 milligrams. Okay, all right, this is my order. This is my dose. So I can say, oh, I'm going to need 12.5 milliliters per dose. Okay, how many doses a day? Oh, TID times 3 doses per day times 14 days. So sometimes you have to break it down a little to get to the end, right? Think about it like you're baking a cake. In a way, you've got to kind of follow the recipe. And in this case, our recipe is logic. So on the next question, the answer is going to be in tablets. How many tablets? So how am I giving this to the patient? How is the patient going to be taking this? What is the information they need to be able to take this medication? What else? I'll put the key up so you can check your work. If there's some that you're not understanding after you look at the key, contact me. Let me know before you try to do your test, okay?
Okay.
Oh, there was another question on here that had to do with ounces. So that would be another one that you might, I won't put that on your test, but the ounce question, that's just another kind of notation. 1 ounce is equal to 30 milliliters. So the test is due Friday. And your metric assignment 1 will be due Sunday. Just metric conversions. But I want you to focus on this test before we get back into the conversions. What else can I do for you today? All righty then. Reach out to me if you have questions. And ask me questions before 4 o'clock on Friday, because if you wait till 7:30, I probably am not going to be checking my email. So for
Okay.
some of the problems we have to convert, okay. What, milligrams to grams, milligrams and micrograms, in drops to, so question, let me do a whiteboard. Okay, so for the test, conversions that you might need, they're at the top of that worksheet. So drops to milliliters, milligrams to micrograms, and grams to milligrams. I'm not even going to give you milliliters and teaspoons on this one. I'll put everything in milliliters. I won't, or teaspoons. It'll be either or. I won't make you convert milliliters and teaspoons. So the other conversion is insulin, and that's written on the label. So do you know what U100 is? So those are what you need to know for this test. Now for the metric conversion, it's just metric. So it's just liters and milliliters. It's kilograms, grams, milligrams, micrograms. So I'll put a worksheet up that you can do ahead of time, and then I'll have it so that you can put the answers in to check them. All right, thumbs up, I like it. Good questions. What else? You need to know your SIG codes, right? To know frequency. That's about it. All right. Like I said, reach out if you have questions. And I will see you tomorrow. You can ask me tomorrow too if you have a question. All righty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good afternoon.
Bye.
All right. Thank
I have to venture to the West Bank to see some students on clinicals. So y'all be careful out there. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.